You're a good little Christian, aren't you? You do Sunday school. You show up religiously every Sunday. Yeah. Because you were born in Terre Haute, Indiana. They got you going to that church early. You never even known another way of life. It's always been church on Sunday from as long back as you can remember. A little Sunday school. Fond memories. Sundays with the mom and dad and the family. It must be right. It must be right. I mean, God and Jesus and the Holy Ghost, that whole triumvirate thing. Monotheistic, but, no, we're not talking modalism here. Sorry, I won't, because most people won't keep up with that. I'm a dick. So you were born and you were told all about baby Jesus in the manger, Star of Bethlehem, blah, 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 blah. Wonderful. You're a good Christian. I bet you never heard this in church. He who raises his voice first in an argument loses. How about this one? He who does not compete cannot lose. Sound maxims, I think. Kind of like in the first scenario, a kind word turneth away wrath. He who raises his voice first in an argument loses. Kind of like. And in the second one, choose your battles carefully. But you see how those, as this author has interpreted those two saws, maxims. This is my take on them as I've interpreted them. I find them to be most wholesome things. Most wonderful things, concepts, ideas, ways to live your life. Guess where I learned them? In the Far East. Is that like racially insensitive? Can you still say Far East? I know you can't say Oriental. No! Trying to keep up with all this shit, I can say Pacific Rim, but I can't say Gook. Can't say Nip. I can't say subhumanoid about the Asian people in any way, shape, or form. Even though a lot of our propaganda during World War II was to paint the Japanese as subhumanoids. But that was our government doing that for the war effort, so that's okay. Moving on. Yeah, I learned that from Eastern philosophy. I learned these things. There are many more I've learned. I'll share one more with you. And though it will appear subtle on its nature, on its surface, again, you know how I'm coming after you shrinks because it's my turn now. Now I am the teacher and you are the student. God forgive me for speaking so. ego, my pride. But I guess that comes with old age. So to some degree, I'll trade it. I'll accept it for the bed disc in my neck and other things. Too numerous to mention in my failing physical condition. I shall make the payment at the end, yes. And I shall make it once only. Yes. And the account will be squared. Yeah, so I learned these things not from the Bible. I learned these concepts, which again I find to be quite and similar in a lot of ways to the Bible, across the ocean. And I'll give you one more. I need you to listen. This is important. It's very important. It's called being, I got a crib or I'll forget it. It's called being malleable. Because so many of us become set in our ways, especially as we get older, and we become less and less willing. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, okay? Moving on. Some of these things I'm imparting to you, I've learned from people of Asian descent, friends. I dare call friends, thank you. I'm rich to say friends for friendly. There was a Shaolin temple. And there was a prospective student. However, this student, though having garnered the eye of the old men, one in particular, a blind man, who had taken a keen interest on this boy, I think he loved this little boy. I wonder what he saw in him. Perhaps he saw things in himself, this little boy, that reminded him of himself, that he was not sorrowful for. The little boy was, he's mixed breed, man. He's a mutt. A mutt. So I think, I'm sorry, I'm rolling a piece of copper across the table. It's in lieu of wearing it. You know what I mean? I feel that this is healthy. I'm creating an aura in my kitchen of a copper, healthy atmosphere. And one of the elders who is in charge of making the call looks at this mutt and says to the boy, you know, we got a certain way of doing things around here. And I don't imagine he talked and draw like that because he's Chinese, but he said to the boy, he said, we got a certain way of doing things, and we done them this way for a long, long, long time. And guess what? Even though one of my brethren in here seems to have taken a fancy to you, he didn't tell the boy all this, but he's thinking it as he's speaking down to this boy. He already knew he was getting leaned on a little bit by one of his peers, probably. He says to the boy, he says, because you ain't one of us. You ain't Chinese. You ain't American either. Mulatto. If I could use that word here. That destructive word, mulatto. Because I can't come up. What is half Caucasoid and half Chinese? I don't know. It's a hardship. That's what it is for the child. an extra burden. Perhaps hardship was a strong. I digress. And he says to the boy, he says, yeah, we done things around here a certain way for a long, long time. And I'm looking at you, and I'm not sure about you because I don't know what you are. And then he said, and he's thinking all these things, but he's being delicate with the boy, and he says, we have always done things a particular way at this temple. You would represent a change, a departure from those ways. Should we accept you into our temple as a student? This is subtle. Pay attention. It's very subtle. And then he says to the boy, perhaps it's time for a change. Remember how in the past I've talked about know what you want to do and pursue it with all of your might until you reach a brick wall. And then when you reach that brick wall, be willing to turn. Na levo, na pravo, left or right. But be willing to turn from that path. Be malleable. I love you.